Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Morgan and I'm Council's Chief Executive Officer. I extend a warm welcome to the gallery here at the Cobram Civic Centre and for those joining us via live stream for this afternoon's scheduled meeting of Council. Consistent with section 13.3 of our governance rules, Council officers have been authorised to record the public session of this meeting using appropriate recording devices. I now turn to Chair Administrator Dr. Graham Emerson PSM for the prayer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CEO. Could I please ask people to rise whilst I introduce the prayer and acknowledgement of traditional owners? Almighty God, we humbly ask you to guide our deliberations for the welfare and benefit of the Moira Shire and its people whom we serve. Moira Shire Council acknowledges the Yorta Yorta Nation as the traditional owners of this land. We recognise the deep spiritual connection to land, waterways and community of the 8 clan groups of the Yorta Yorta Nation. And we pay our respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Please be seated. Welcome to today's scheduled meeting of the Moira Shire Council being held here at the Civic Centre in Cobram. Can I extend a very warm welcome to those members of the gallery who have joined us tonight, and particularly to those members who are joining online via our streaming service as well. A very warm welcome to you also. Item 4 on tonight's agenda is apologies and leave of absence. Are there any apologies for tonight's meeting? Are there any requests for leave of absence? If not, we'll take it no request for leave of absence. Before we get tonight's meeting formally underway with the business as per the agenda, item 5 tonight is for us to mark a minute's silence to honour the victims of the Bondi Beach terror attack. Before we pause for the minute's silence, I would like to speak briefly to this very tragic event. The attack that took place has shocked communities across Australia and around the world. It was an act of senseless violence, one that took innocent lives, shattered families, and struck at the heart of the peace and safety we all have a right to expect here in Australia. Today, we stand together in expressing our deepest condolences to the victims, their loved ones, and everyone whose lives have been scarred by this horrific event in Bondi. Terror and hatred have no place in our society. We condemn this attack unequivocally. Our shared values of compassion, respect, inclusion and unity are far stronger than any attempt to divide or intimidate us. Moments like this remind us of the importance of supporting one another, of reaching out to those who are hurting, and of reaffirming our commitment to a society where people feel safe, connected and valued. We also acknowledge the extraordinary courage of the first responders, the health workers and the bystanders who stepped in and stepped forward at great personal risk. Their actions reflect the very best of who we are as Australians. So as we pause now, let this silence be a moment of remembrance, of solidarity and of quiet strength. May it honour the lives lost, offer comfort to those who grieve, and remind us all of the responsibility we share to stand against violence and hate in all its forms, and importantly, to continue building communities grounded in understanding and care. I'd now invite those in our meeting here today, including the gallery, to join with me in being upstanding and honouring 1 minute's silence. Thank you. Moving now to item 6 on tonight's agenda, and that is disclosure of conflicts of interest. Are there any matters of conflict of interest to be declared by administrators or officers on matters on tonight's agenda?
No, Chair.
If not, we'll take it there are no conflicts of interest to be declared. Item 7 is the confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. And our previous meeting, of course, was held on Wednesday, 10 December 2025. Do we have a motion to endorse the minutes of our previous meeting?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to move that the minutes of the scheduled council meeting held on Wednesday, 10th of December 2025, as presented, be adopted.
Thank you, Administrator Benedict. I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, the motion is carried. I'll now move to item 8 on tonight's agenda, and that is addresses from the administrators. Very tragically, a number of property owners in the Yarrawhia and Muckatar areas of our shire suffered significant property damage, including homes destroyed from a major fire which commenced on Friday the 9th of January. Under catastrophic rated weather conditions, the fire ignited at the intersection of the Murray Valley Highway and the Benalla-Tokenwall Road and quickly spread largely along the main road corridor. The fire destroyed 13 homes and more than 30 structures, and many of these, of course, contained vehicles and extensive farm equipment. The fire also destroyed many kilometres of fencing, pastures and hay. Fortunately, it appears that significant stock losses have been avoided on this occasion, but we are also aware that some orchardists have lost substantial numbers of fruit trees. This fire has been a traumatic and deeply distressing event for many in the Yarrawhia, Muckatar and Katamatite communities, with the latter community, of course, also being advised to evacuate in the afternoon of Friday the 9th of January. On behalf of Council and the community, we extend our heartfelt appreciation to the first responders, to the CFA and other emergency services, the police, the SES, and to the many, many council staff who have assisted with the fire response, relief and now recovery efforts. We also thank the many support agencies who have assisted in providing support to those in need in the immediate aftermath of the fire event. Council moved quickly into the establishment of a relief centre on Friday the 9th of January, followed by a community meeting on Saturday the 10th of January in Katamatite, and then established a recovery information centre on Sunday the 11th of January and the following days. As indicated in the detailed report in this evening's agenda, we also hosted a community breakfast on the 22nd of January in Yarrawhia as an opportunity for affected residents to connect, to access support services and to receive the latest information in relation to the recovery phase of this event. Council has a significant role in leading the recovery efforts and is very well placed to do so. We are conscious that those impacted will choose to respond in different ways and that they do need to be allowed to respond at a pace of their choosing. We are committed to support the community along with our partners for the long recovery journey. Lastly, I would like to congratulate the many council staff that have played critical roles in the response, relief and now recovery stages. The planning and commitment of these staff has ensured that the community has been and will continue to be very well supported through this traumatic event. So we do express our sincerest thank you to everyone involved. Equally tragically, we were all deeply saddened to learn of the fatal road accident which occurred on Chapel Road in Cobram South on the 15th of December. This accident claimed the lives of 4 people and saw serious injuries to 5 others. Our hearts go out to the family and friends of all involved in this most tragic accident, particularly to the PNG and Congolese communities of Shepparton. This very sad road accident is also, of course, a reminder for us all to take that extra care on our roads. On Monday, 26th of January, we enjoyed Australia Day activities right across the Shire, and we thank the many local community committees for their magnificent efforts in providing local Australia Day celebrations, including the awarding of township-based Australia Day awards. I had the great pleasure of representing Council at the Yarrawonga and Nathalia celebrations, in addition to hosting a citizenship ceremony when 25 Moira residents took the final step to becoming Australian citizens. We would also like to congratulate Arthur German of Cobram and Peter Edgar of Coonamoo for being awarded the Order of Australia Medal for their services to their communities. We look forward to inviting Arthur and Peter to a future council meeting to celebrate their respective achievements. Towards the end of December, I had the pleasure of representing council at a number of school presentation ceremonies. This included St Francis Primary School in Nathalia, Yarrawonga Sacred Heart Primary, Cobram Secondary College and the Catamatite Primary School. Thank you to these schools for allowing council to be a part of their annual celebrations. The Numurkah Flood Implementation Committee met on the 12th of December to discuss the progress of works to complete the Stage 1 levee in Numurkah. This first stage levee will protect the northern part of the township and is very well progressed. The committee was also informed of the recent grant announcement of the Commonwealth Government of $6.4 million to come to council to progress design and works on the southern side of the Broken Creek in Numurkah Township. When completed, this will provide a high level of protection for the township from future flooding events. Lastly, I had the pleasure of representing council at the 50th anniversary celebrations of the Yarrawonga Moala Amateur Canoe Club, held on the 17th of January. This milestone is an outstanding achievement for a club that doesn't always receive high profile, despite the club having produced athletes that have represented Australia at the Olympics in the past. Congratulations are extended to the Canoe Club for reaching this very significant milestone, and particularly I can make a shout out to Secretary Tim Roadley for his major contribution to the club over the past 20 years. Administrator Benedica, can I please invite you to provide your address?
Thank you, Chair Administrator. As mentioned, January was a month marked by extraordinary challenge for parts of our Shire, alongside showcasing remarkable community strength, generosity and coordination. The Chair Administrator has already outlined the operational and impact details of the recent fires between Yarrawira and Makatar. And in addition to his comments, I'd like to take the opportunity to formally acknowledge and thank our community and the many volunteer organisations whose response was nothing short of exceptional. As mentioned, the fires resulted in the loss of 13 homes, along with livelihoods, sheds, vehicles and critical infrastructure. Yet when driving through the affected area, what is most striking is the sheer number of homes that were saved. Fire lines were often right up to the edges of houses, a testament to rapid action, local knowledge and extraordinary collective effort. We sincerely thank the CFA, including the many local and district brigades who responded tirelessly, often in extremely challenging conditions. I also wish to acknowledge the many local residents who came out in force with tractors, discs, small firefighting units, ploughing fire breaks, extinguishing spot fires and supporting neighbours. Their swift and practical action undoubtedly prevented further loss. Our emergency response was further strengthened by the outstanding work of local community organisations. Moira Food Share moved immediately to provide food for the Emergency Relief Centre and directly to affected residents. They also rapidly established a donation fund, which they are managing and distributing to support those impacted. In recognition of their vital role, delivering approximately 4,000 meals per month across our Shire, several ministers have since been invited to visit this remarkable organisation and see firsthand the scale and impact of their work. Cobram Community House also stepped up quickly and decisively, establishing a hub for the collection of material goods and providing hands-on assistance to people who had lost so much. They worked closely with Council's emergency response team to ensure needs were identified early, while also supporting residents with paperwork, referrals and connections to services. The generosity of the broader community was overwhelming, with donations arriving in large volumes in a very short time. As a result, the Materials Good Donation Hub has now closed for the time being. We'd also like to acknowledge the local SES for their support and Blaze Aid, who established a field centre at the Yarrawee Recreation Reserve by the Tuesday following the Friday fire. Blaze Aid continues to operate and provide invaluable assistance. In addition, the rapid response teams from Nathalia and Echuca, both volunteer-led, immediately mobilised to feed firefighters and displaced residents. These same volunteers were also present at the Community Thank You barbecue held on Thursday, January 22nd. This event provided an important opportunity to recognise services, bring people together and connect affected community members with ongoing support. On January the 21st, the Chair Administrator and I attended the Yarrawonga Cemetery Trust Annual Appreciation Dinner. This was a valuable opportunity to recognise the significant work of volunteers who manage the Bundalong, Barramine and Yarrawonga cemeteries. All three cemeteries are in excellent condition, well cared for, thoughtfully planned and clearly managed with a strong eye to the future. The evening also acknowledged the many other community members who generously contribute their time to gardening, maintenance and lawn mowing. It was a thoroughly enjoyable evening and a fitting recognition of dedicated local volunteers. On the 22nd of January, I participated in a strategic planning day with our voluntary advisory committee of the Barmah Forest and Heritage Education Centre. This was a highly positive and constructive session, setting a clear and shared direction for the future. I look forward to working alongside this committed group of local volunteers to turn the plan into action and realise its potential. As mentioned on Australia Day, it was a privilege to attend celebrations. I attended a wonderful morning in Numurkah where a range of community groups and individuals were recognised for their contributions. It was heartening to see such a great turnout with many volunteer organisations represented. A powerful reminder of the depth of civic pride and service across our shire. As previously mentioned by our Chair Administrator, it was also a pleasure to welcome 25 new Australians at our citizenship ceremony on Australia Day. I'd also like to acknowledge several engagements that took place in December after our last council meeting. Following the council meetings in December, I was delighted to represent council at additional school awards ceremonies at Sacred Heart College Yarrawonga, Cobram Primary School, Nathalia Primary School and Numurkah Secondary College. I thank each school community for the warm welcome extended to me. It was a pleasure to present the Moira Shire Awards at each school and to celebrate the achievements of students. In December, the Chair Administrator, CEO and some senior staff also visited Barwoo Homestead in Nathalia to hear about future plans for this significant building and site. We thank former councillor Wayne Limerick for the tour and for sharing his ideas and vision for the site. I conclude this report by again expressing my sincere gratitude to our communities, volunteers, emergency services and local organisations. The response to recent events has demonstrated the strength, compassion and resilience that defines Moira Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. Can we now move to item 9 on tonight's agenda, and that is reports from officers. The first item tonight is 9.1, Council's response to fire events of 9th of January 2026. Can I invite the Director of Community, Mr. Scott Williams, to present this report?
Thank you, Chair. Council's role in emergency response and recovery is defined under the Emergency Management Act and the State Emergency Management Plan. In brief, our role in emergency response is to coordinate local resources and support emergency services, and in recovery, we're the lead coordinating services, ensuring community needs are met and facilitating long-term recovery efforts. So with that in mind, I'll just give a very brief overview of our response and recovery efforts. So we activated the Municipal Emergency Coordination Centre as a precaution leading into the catastrophic fire day on Friday, the 9th of January. Unfortunately, we did have to use that command centre, and that's where we coordinate our emergency response, liaising with CFA, police and other emergency services, and coordinating with the Incident Control Centre in Shepparton. The centre remained operational 24/7 during that critical response period. That same night, we established our relief centre, which provided emergency accommodation, food and essential supplies for displaced residents. As emergency needs were addressed, we transitioned our relief centre into an information centre. This became our central coordination point for connecting people with ongoing support and services and recovery information. At this point, we also established our case management processes, which meant every affected resident had a point of contact to individually understand their specific needs and coordinate appropriate support services. At the same time, we set up our secondary impact assessments teams. So these teams assess the full scope of the impact, and we use this data to drive our recovery planning and resource allocation. We're currently finalising these assessments. Moving forward, we're establishing 2 key groups to ensure coordinated long-term recovery. A coordination committee, so this is an external committee that brings together other governments and non-government agencies to coordinate recovery activities, identify emerging recovery issues, avoid duplication of efforts, and monitor the overall recovery process. Internally, we'll also focus our resources on council's recovery actions, so analysing that data from the secondary impact assessments and the case management information that we're receiving, and we'll determine what internal actions we need to take, ensuring a consistent and strategic approach to recovery. So through these groups and case management, we'll continue to support our community, not just in the coming weeks, but for the long term. And that's our commitment that we'll be here with the community through that whole recovery journey. I did also want to thank the emergency services for their response and their bravery in containing what could have been a much worse event. I also want to thank all the agencies, volunteers and community groups who have been involved in recovery. The collaboration and coordination we've seen from our community, and these support services has been exceptional. I also did want to acknowledge our Moira staff, including my recovery team, who were seconded from their normal roles to support recovery, who have been working around the clock for their community. So I've been very proud to lead them. In saying that, Chair and Administrator Benedica, the work's not done. We'll continue to sustain our efforts and support the community for the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. I'm happy to move that Council, number 1, note the report on Council's response to the fire events within the Moira Shire, including the Yarrawira grass fire on 9 January 2026. Number 2, support continued recovery activities and ongoing improvement of emergency management arrangements. And number 3, formally acknowledge and thank local emergency services organisations for their tireless and courageous work, including the Country Fire Authority volunteers and staff, Forest Fire Management Victoria, the State Emergency Service of Victoria, Victoria Police, Red Cross, and the Department of Families, Fairness and Housing. B, council staff for their preparedness and swift mobilisation to emergency response. And C, community organisations who assisted with relief delivery, including Moira Food Share and the Cobram Community House. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedica. In speaking to this motion, and we have covered some aspects of the significance of this fire event, and particularly the enormous contribution by many contributors to the response, the relief and now recovery from this major fire event which occurred between Yarrawira and Muckatar on the 9th of January. And the report, Mr. Williams, that you've presented tonight is a very comprehensive overview of the full suite of activity, and including the scope and scale of what has been a major event for us. This is obviously a deeply distressing and traumatic time, particularly for those affected, and particularly we do want to acknowledge those who have lost their homes. This is a very significant impact, and members of our community will require ongoing support for many months. And I'm really pleased to see the report and your words tonight, Mr. Williams, a demonstration that council is here to support these members for the long term. Can I again thank all the various organisations, whether they're emergency services or support agencies, and particularly the council staff for the role they've played in this major event as well. Administrator Benedike, would you like to speak as seconder to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, in seconding the motion, I'm very pleased that we've got an eye to long-term community recovery. Recovery from events like this is not linear. It goes in waves. People are affected at different times. A lot of the action at the moment is happening. When that's not happening, then there are matters that come to mind for people, and we need to be there for the long-term support, especially mental health support, and being able to know the agencies that are there to offer that mental health support. I also would like to concur with the comments made by Mr. Williams and by the Chair about the responsiveness of our staff. They were there prepared at 6 o'clock in the morning on the day the fire happened. It would have been great had that preparation just sat in waiting, but at least they were there and they were ready to act. We've also seen and been briefed daily on the progress as things have been happening. We've been able to host ministers and other political representatives to the region. They've been very interested in what we've been doing and very complimentary about the work that's been done by our teams and the coordinated effort that we're putting in with all of the agencies. So I'm seconding the recommendation and the motion, but also seconding the comments of thanks and congratulations.
With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 10.1 on tonight's agenda is contracts awarded under CEO delegation. Can I invite the Director of Corporate Performance, Mr. Peter Canizzaro, to present this report?
Thank you, Chair, Administrator Edmondson, and through you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the report titled Contracts Awarded under the CEO Delegation for the period 1 October 2025 to the 31st of December 2025, listed as 10.1 on tonight's agenda. The purpose of this report is to provide transparency by detailing contracts awarded by the Chief Executive Officer under delegated authority for purchases between $150,001 and $500,000, excluding GST. By way of background, under Council's Instrument of Delegation, which was adopted on the 27th of March 2024, the Chief Executive Officer is authorised to award contracts up to $500,000, excluding GST. The key points of the report are as follows. 2 contracts were awarded under Chief Executive Officer Delegation during the quarter, which totalled $723,197. The first contract is awarded for CQA and GITA inspection services for Cobram landfill, valued at $273,197 to Terra Firma Laboratories. Just to cover off on the abbreviations, if I may, CQA refers to Construction Quality Assurance and GITA refers to Geotechnical Inspection and Testing Authority, which are critical third-party services used in landfill construction and civil engineering projects. The second contract is awarded for debt collection services, and the contract was valued at $450,000 over 5 years, and that's awarded to Mid-State Credit Collect Proprietary Limited. The recommendation before Council is to note the quarterly report for contracts awarded under CEO delegation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Canizzaro. I'm happy to move that Council note the quarterly report for contracts awarded under CEO delegation for the period 1 October 2025 to 31 December 2025. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedike. This matter, as Mr. Canizzaro has outlined, is a procedural matter. It is a matter that attempts to demonstrate complete transparency through our procurement processes, particularly for those contracts that are awarded by the CEO under his approved delegation up to the value of $500,000. And I think the report and the explanation provided by Mr. Cannizzaro is reasonably self-explanatory. Do you wish to speak as seconder? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour, the motion is carried. Item 10.2 on tonight's agenda is the inquiry submission into the local government funding and fiscal sustainability. Mr. Cannizzaro, can I again invite you to introduce this matter?
Thank you, Chair, and through you, Chair, I'm pleased to present the report titled Inquiry Submission on Local Government Funding and Fiscal Sustainability as item number 10.2 on tonight's agenda. The purpose of this report is to seek Council's consideration for the endorsement of our draft submission to the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Regional Development, Infrastructure and Transport's inquiry into local government funding and fiscal sustainability. By way of background, the parliamentary inquiry was established to examine the critical financial sustainability challenges facing Australian local government. This inquiry represents the most significant federal examination of local government funding in recent years, occurring at a time when rural councils and regional councils, in fact all local governments, face unprecedented financial pressures. This timing provides a critical opportunity to influence Commonwealth policy that directly impacts Council's operational and financial sustainability and service delivery capacity. Our submission specifically responds to Section 3 of the Terms of Reference regarding impacts and effectiveness of current funding arrangements on councils like ours. The submission provides 4 recommendations that we'd like the committee to consider. First one being that a local government cost index is developed through collaborative engagement between Commonwealth Government, state governments and the local government sectors. And 2, that federal financial assistance grant allocation to local governments be increased from the current estimated 0.52% of federal taxation revenue in 2025-26 financial year by an initial minimum increase of 10% per year for the next 2 financial years, and that the future financial assistance grants increases proposed above be indexed by the proposed local government cost index rather than the consumer price index to ensure grants reflect local government cost pressures. Third recommendation is that we recommend to the Commonwealth and state governments that they implement a mandatory local government impact statement for all new state and federal legislation affecting local government. Fourth recommendation is the establishment of a federal funding program for rural council shared services hubs to improve productivity and reduce per capita service delivery costs. For this report, administrators, there are no direct financial implications associated with this development of this report and the recommendations therein. However, the submission addresses significant financial sustainability risks that threaten councils across the board capacity to maintain current service levels and infrastructure investment without comprehensive funding reform. The recommendation is before you, Chair and Administrator Benedika, which is for Council to endorse the submission to the House of Representatives Standing Committee and authorise the submission on behalf of Moira Shire Council. This aligns with our strategic objective of advocating for sustainable local government funding in the interests of our community and supports the broader local government sector. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cannizzaro. Is there a motion for this item?
Yes, I'd like to move that Council 1 receives and notes the House of Representatives Standing Committee on Regional Development, Infrastructure and Transport Terms of Reference presented in Attachment 1 for its inquiry into local government funding and fiscal sustainability with written submissions due by the 3rd of February 2026, and 2, endorses Council's submission to the inquiry as presented in Attachment 2 and authorises the Chief Executive Officer to lodge Council's submission with the committee by the 3rd of February 2026.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Do you wish to speak as the mover of the motion?
I certainly wish to speak. These federal parliamentary inquiries, and one that's overdue really on local government funding, are really important to be able to present and advocate on behalf of our community. The Parliamentary inquiries are traditionally made up of a whole group of people from different parties and independents across the parliament. They get to inquire quite deeply, ask a lot of questions of anyone who presents a submission, and ask for further evidence as required. So there's an opportunity not to only just put in the submission, but also speak to this submission. It's really important here that council's advocating in the interests of the community to secure a more equitable share of federal and state funding that really reflects the true cost of delivering our services. Importantly for us, we have external funding support from both the Commonwealth and the state, but 84% of our support comes from the Commonwealth in these external funding grants and 16% from the state. Of particular importance to us is that $19.8 million of Commonwealth recurrent funding comes to our shire. We could not exist without it, and we need to be making sure that it's keeping up with the costs of the services we deliver using that funding. So really, by participating in this inquiry, council puts ourselves in a good position to influence policy reforms that are designed to improve our long-term sustainability, ultimately enabling council to maintain and enhance essential services for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. With that, I'm happy to put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Item 11.1 on tonight's agenda is contract C034/25 disaster recovery funding agreement, reconstruction of essential public assets for treatments ST5, ST11 and ST12. Can I please invite the Director of Infrastructure, Ms. Rachel Gadd, to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. This report asks Council to consider the award of a road maintenance and construction contract for the reconstruction of roads damaged in the October 2022 flood event. A significant amount of work has been completed by Council staff to bring this work program together and the requirements of meet the requirements of the disaster recovery funding arrangements. And you'll see out on the road at the moment that there's a number of pegs, wooden pegs. If you're wondering what they are, they're marking out the areas for these contracts. The works were publicly tendered in two separable portions, with a package of works for the west of the Shire and another one for the east. The selection process followed a rigorous and transparent evaluation process that confirmed the recommended contractor offered the best value, delivering both packages of work within the approved budget and to the disaster recovery funding requirements. The project is fully funded through the DRFA program, and the restoration works will help to ease future maintenance pressures and support a more proactive asset management approach for our local road network going forward. And the recommendation is as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Gadd. I'm happy to move that Council number 1 awards contract C034/25 Disaster Recovery Funding Agreement, DRFA, reconstruction of essential public assets, AGRN 1037, treatments ST5, ST11 and ST12 to Marchese Excavations and Bin Hire Proprietary Limited, trading as Marchese Excavations and Bin Hire Trust, for the lump sum amounts of Part A, $709,161 excluding GST, and Part B, $281,349.50 excluding GST. And secondly, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to sign the contract documents. Is there a seconder for that motion?
Yes, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Administrator Benedika. I'm really pleased to see this contract before us tonight. As Ms. Gadd has indicated, these works are restoration works resulting from the 2022 floods, and they've been a long time coming. The requirements of DRFA are quite stringent, and I want to compliment our staff for the diligent work they've done to enable us to be able to secure these funds to carry out these really important works for the community. This contract will see works carried out in both the east and the west parts of our municipality, works to the value of just about $1 million. So these works are well overdue, and I'm really looking forward to the contractor getting underway and completing these works at the earliest opportunity. Do you wish to speak as seconder?
Just briefly, I'd also like to note that the funding covers 100% of the costs associated with delivering these approved works. And again, that's to the diligence and really good background work that's been put in by our council staff. Thank you.
With that, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Mr. CEO, do we have any notices of motion for tonight's meeting?
No, Chair.
Are there any petitions and joint letters?
No petitions and joint letters.
No council, no documents requiring council seal,
Not this evening.
and no matters of urgent business.
No urgent business, Chair.
That does take us to public question time on tonight's agenda, and we do have 2 questions submitted tonight from Julie Munn, and I think Julie might be with us tonight. Julie, would you like to come forward to the lectern? I give you the opportunity to ask your first question, or would you prefer the CEO to ask that question, followed by an opportunity for you to speak to your question for 2 minutes. Do you want to read your question?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who is responsible for roadside mowing and clearing of fallen trees along the nearby highways and local rural paved and dirt roads? And when is this done?
Would you like to speak further to that question, or is it self-explanatory?
I'd just like some confirmation, please, as to, whose responsibility it is, and is there a timeline, please, for it to be done, as in after these fires have gone through?
Great, thanks, Julie. I'll get the CEO to respond to that first question, then we'll return to you for question 2.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Julie, for the question. So responses in 2 parts to that question. Road jurisdiction is split in 2. So highways and arterial roads are the responsibility of Department of Transport and Planning, which is formerly Regional Roads Victoria, so state government. So council does have an agreement to maintain within the township zones. So you'll notice that when you're driving into the townships, anything beyond the 80k zone is nice and neatly maintained, and council maintains that. But anything beyond that is the responsibility of the state government. So the department is the Department of Transport and Planning. Other local, rural and sealed and unsealed roads are the responsibility of council. And we have crews that complete scheduled roadside mowing, slashing and weed spraying on an annual program. We also have a list of designated fire access tracks, which are nominated by the CFA, which we slash each year prior to the fire danger period. Fallen trees generally are removed when they pose a safety hazard or a block of road access. Where they don't pose that hazard, they're generally left as habitat for native animals. But to clarify, roads like the Benalla-Tocumwal Road, for example, which I think the question is really aimed at here, are within the jurisdiction of the state government.
The state government.
Correct.
That's correct. Julie, would you like to go to question 2?
Oh, this was a distressing one for me, because I happened to be in the library on that Friday afternoon. On extreme fire danger days, who is responsible for road signage in town and on local roads for evacuees to reach the designated relief centre in Campbell Road for those who do not have internet access at home? Now, the reason I've asked this question is I was actually in the library working on one of the computers on that Friday afternoon, and it was quite distressing for me to have people come in who were crying, who had been evacuated. They had no idea where they were supposed to be going. Jess and Kate and I tried to do our best to provide support, but it wasn't until a good nearly 2 o'clock that we found out that people were to go to the centre in Campbell Road. Now, the people that were coming into the library, because we had air conditioning and obviously computers, they said there was nothing, no police out on the roads to say, well, go this way or go that way. And I'm just wondering, do you normally provide road signage, or is that something that hasn't been considered before for people who are out of town and aren't on computers and things like that?
Great. Thanks, Julie, for that question. And again, I'll ask the CEO to respond.
Thanks, Julie, and thank you, Chair, for the question. Just in terms of the response there, I think on the date of the event on the 9th of January, we had an overlap of two emergency situations. The first is the heat wave that we're experiencing. So Council's heat wave plan is activated. And what that means is the library is nominated as a cool place of refuge. So the library is a correct place for people to go. When it comes to what we call an emergency relief centre, which is activated in response to an emergency like a bushfire or a grass fire, that is activated by the control agency. So the control agency is the CFA, and the incident controller for that incident will instruct council when to open or establish an emergency relief centre. So until council receives that instruction from the incident controller, we can't open the centre, and we certainly can't direct people where to go. It is with the responsibility for the incident controller. So two things there. So the heatwave plan dictates that we have the cool place of refuge, which is a library, which is correct. The second one, which you referred to, was enacted later in the afternoon, is as a result of the directive from the CFA, and we can't act on that until we receive that directive. When it comes to signage, I think the priority for the emergency services and for the incident controller is signage around the actual event. So council supports agencies by providing road closure signage and detour signage around the actual event, but not signage within the township itself. So we're relying then on people listening to the ABC radio, for example, or checking the Vic emergency app to find out where the place is to go if the emergency relief centre is activated. So just to clarify, we can't establish an emergency relief centre until we've been activated by the incident controller, which in this case is the CFA. Once that's activated, we try to communicate out through our social media, but also through ABC radio and through the messaging coming from the CFA via the Vic Emergency Act. I will note that part of our own debrief, when it comes to signage for the emergency relief centre, particularly at the location, that's something that we can take away to how to improve that. So when people are driving to, they'll easily and readily identify that location. But just thought it'd be worth clarifying that we can't activate those things until we're called on by the CFA as the incident controller to do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Two very good questions. So thank you for participating tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There are no further questions tonight, to my knowledge, Mr. CEO, that have been submitted?
No, Chair.
Okay, with that does bring us to the close of tonight's meeting. Can I thank the members of the gallery who have joined us tonight, and to those members of the community who have also joined us via our streaming service. With that, I will now declare the meeting closed.